Hey, I'm Brigham, the Product Design Director at Outdoor Vitals. I'm going to walk through the Pursuit Hybrid Fleece, the design elements and features that make the piece perform in the way it's intended. The Pursuit Hybrid Fleece is an active insulating hybrid mid-layer that can also be used as an outer layer, really to give ideal or optimized body temperature regulation, comfort, and mobility for active pursuits. So one of the key elements that is constant in the design of the Pursuit Hybrid Fleece is breathability and comfort, and that is done by body mapping different fabrics and materials and patterning the piece in a way that it lends to just unrestricted mobility. This is a piece that if the conditions require putting it on, we want it to have enough temperature regulation designed and built into it that we can just leave it on for hours on end. I'm going to walk through all of the design that contributes to that. Okay, so you will see that in the front, you've got different kind of mapping of different fabrics. In the upper torso area here, we have this kind of bi-component or two-layer fabric combination. So inside, we use a Primaloft Evolve active insulation. That's a 75 gram per square meter weight. It's a very high loft, high pile, and very open knit insulation. Has a really high warmth to weight ratio for basically a fleece. And then in combination with that, any area that uses the Primaloft Evolve insulation is combined with a 30D nylon stretch woven face fabric. And what that does, or why we do that, the properties of the fabric that block a little bit of wind also slow down the rate that we would lose heat through this very, very open, breathable insulation. So we use this insulation and face fabric combo in the areas that we need to maintain the most heat, which is in our core, where our vital organs are, with that constant awareness of breathability. So we did not want to use a highly wind-resistant face fabric because we still need high levels of breathability for temperature regulation and moisture management. Okay, so again, this face fabric, it is a 30D nylon, but it is a very, very breathable nylon. It's about a 50 CFM, cubic feet per meter, breathability, air permeability in the fabric. And again, so that is just enough to slightly slow the rate of heat loss from our body while preventing too much heat loss. And it's also, it's a lightweight combination and has a very high warmth to weight ratio. The areas in the front, you'll see kind of this lower third, we use this grid fleece. Areas that we use the grid fleece in this piece, the kind of the number one reason we do that is slightly increased breathability, improved mobility and stretch, and then to reduce bulk. So where we use the grid fleece are all areas that we want the least amount of bulk. We want it to be very smooth and minimize excess bulk and fabric. So that's what we use for the grid fleece. You can see on the inside, it's still when it stretches, the more it stretches, the more the knit opens up and allows heat and air to escape or enter the piece. So it's a really good combination. You can see in the underarm, we use the grid fleece. Again, the area under the arm, that is going to lend itself towards good mobility of our arms and our shoulder joints, minimize bulk, increase breathability a little bit, and then just, that is a design element specific to the fabric that lends itself to minimizing restriction and maximizing mobility. So this grid fleece panel goes from the wrist cuff all the way to the underarm and then merges into the side of the torso. If I hold up the side of the torso here, you can see all that grid fleece portion. And if we look at the back of the piece, there's some things to talk about there. So again, for a piece where it's intended to be used in harsh, cold conditions, we always want to be able to maintain body core temperature. So you'll see that we've got the Primaloft Evolve double layer set up, going down in between the shoulders, the scapula, and then runs all the way down along the spine area, where there are major blood vessels that run down the vertebrae, and then towards the lower third, it widens out again to maximize warmth to weight. Now in the back, you'll see that we've got some grid fleece paneling in between my hands here that extends on the outer edges of the shoulder and then down to the side of the torso. The reason we did that is to really provide excellent mobility and really eliminate restriction in the back. If I demonstrate, if I just pull on this, you can see there's a little bit of stretch on that face fabric. We wanted more stretch than that in the back, because across our backs and across our shoulders, those are areas when we move and we need a range of motion in the mountains for whatever we're doing. It's really noticeable when there's not enough stretch across the back. And we noticed that in testing different variations of body mapping of fabric. So what we did is we added these grid fleece panels because they provide a massive amount of stretch across the back. And that really is noticeable in the mobility area. So that's why we have the body mapping that way in the back, is to really increase mobility and range of motion across the upper back and the shoulder area. Another design feature built in that lends itself or contributes to that mobility and comfort is we've got slightly pre-bent or articulated elbows. We put a little articulation dart right there, and what that does is adds a little bit of volume on the outside of the elbow to help pre-bend the elbow and allow for stretch. And then there's a couple extra sewing lines here, and that is to prevent the double layer portion from shifting and catching and moving around too much around our arm. On the hood, we wanted the hood to be close fitting, not form fitting, but we wanted it to for sure encapsulate our head, keep it warm, and when our head moves, the hood moves with it. And so we sized it accordingly. It's got a stretch opening, and then we used that Primaloft Evolve with the nylon face fabric combination. One other design element built into it is really just the fit. For this piece to perform how it's intended, which is to say that it breathes very well, manages moisture from our body very well, and is unrestricting and aids in mobility and comfort, is how this piece fits is an important element of that. So it's an athletic fit that allows a little bit of room underneath for our base layer, so there's a little bit of room for layering without excess bulk or fabric really anywhere on the piece. For this piece to perform and manage moisture and breathe, it has to be more athletic fitting than loose fitting. And that is really to allow the fabrics that we deliberately selected for this piece to do their job at the highest level. So lastly, on the cuff, we have a very unobtrusive thumb loop, and that is to aid or use when we need to put a layer on top of it. So we put our thumb through there, so when we're putting on an extra layer, the sleeve doesn't ride up to our elbow. And that's a deliberate choice to use a thumb loop versus a thumb hole. Oftentimes we find that our watch finds its way into thumb holes and wants to catch on and poke out. These really unobtrusive thumb loops, if you don't use them, you really hardly notice they're there, but they're very effective at doing their job. The last significant design element for the Pursuit Hybrid Fleece that is very obvious and prominent that aids in a significant way in temperature regulation is the center front zipper. You would not call this a quarter zip or a half zip. The zipper is more than half the height of the piece, so it's a very, very deep center front zipper, and that is very, very deliberate, and it really opens up this piece and allows for the dumping or the exhaustion of a lot of body heat. And that again is so when we put this piece on, there should be very little reason in the conditions we find ourselves in that we need to remove the piece. Everything about this piece is designed to maintain core temperature, manage our body moisture, and this very, very deep center front zipper is a huge component of that. So a lot of excess heat can be removed very quickly by managing that zipper. Another thing to mention about the Pursuit Hybrid Fleece is the use of the word hybrid. There's a couple of reasons why we call this a hybrid fleece. First one is it's a hybrid in terms of materials. So we have this section, the sections of the piece that use the Primaloft Evolve with the nylon face fabric. So that in and of itself is kind of a hybrid use of materials. So a very high pile, open knit active insulation on the inside with a stretch woven nylon on the outside. So the inside purpose is warmth to weight, heat retention, breathability, and moisture management. The face fabric application on the outside is to prevent a little bit of wind and moisture from getting through the piece, and also prevent or slow down the rate of heat loss coming from within the piece. The other kind of hybrid element to the piece, and why we call it the Pursuit Hybrid Fleece, is kind of the hybrid application or hybrid use. This is an active insulating mid layer, so it is what it says it is. So it's a mid layer to be layered between other layers and provide just enough insulation and heat retention during active pursuits. However, a lot of the time this is worn as an outer layer. So in cold conditions that are too cold to just hike in a base layer, we can put this on, and that is really what we're wearing all day, because it's too cold to not wear something to insulate our bodies. But definitely the piece has enough breathability to prevent us from overheating. And so really it's a hybrid in a couple different ways, because it can be used next to skin. So it really it's a mid layer, but a hybrid mid layer, because it can flex or kind of shift its application or placement in a layering system. In very cold temperatures, this could easily be used next to skin. And then just like I mentioned, in cold but not quite so cold temperatures, layering this over a mid layer, layering this over a base layer, and then wearing this as our standalone outer layer throughout the day is one of those reasons we call it the Pursuit Hybrid Fleece. Okay, so that really kind of lays out, or that's kind of the walkthrough of the Pursuit Hybrid Fleece. Again, comfort, mobility, moisture management, and temperature regulation are what it's all about. So that's really just the walkthrough of all the design element pieces for the Pursuit Hybrid Fleece.